Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining. Today, we're talking about something that affects so many of us, and yet it goes unspoken. The way we take care of ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we nourish and take care of ourselves day to day, and the way that we've been taught to take care of ourselves. It's not just fluff, it's not just nice to have, it's really what shapes who we are, how we relate to others, and ultimately how we experience our lives. For many of us, I'm sure you would relate to this, the rules that we've been taught that were unspoken, and these were the rules to be a good person or a good girl. Many of us grew with just learning to put others first. We saw others doing it and we learned to do the same. We kept ourselves quiet, learned not to express ourselves or our needs or opinions, just to keep the peace, not to rock the boat. We kept going no matter how tired we were, and that translates to even now. And just the idea of doing things for ourselves and putting ourselves first or taking rest is brings us this sense of guilt in a lot of us. So there are so many things that we experience that are not that we might not be even aware of, conscious of, right? So this comes from, like, I think a lot of the women here, and we grow up with so many roles. We grow up as daughters, sisters, wives, mothers, caregivers, even as employees or even as our own boss. We spend our lives trying to prove ourselves and showing that we are enough, and trying to really be that good girl that we were taught to be. So today's conversation, we're talking about many of us are taking care of ourselves. We're doing so many different things, but still we're feeling unfulfilled, we're exhausted. And a lot of women, I feel, are not really connected to themselves. We're feeling the sense of heaviness around this mental load that we carry. So let's have a conversation about that. And today's guest, we have our very incredible psychologist and speaker, author. She is someone who has been talking about mental health for such a long time, and she's dedicated her life to really serving people and bringing awareness about how people can take better care of themselves to live healthier and happier. We have Dr. Monica Vermani. She is a clinical psychologist and author, speaker, mental health advocate. She is one of the first people who started pioneering the concept of mind-body connection. She has early research that she published many 20 years ago, I would think. And she has a book called A Deeper Wellness, Conquering Stress, Mood, Anxiety, and Traumas. She has her own podcast. She's constantly on national television, and she has been published in leading publications. And she's someone who is so passionate about this topic. And I can't wait to dive in deeper with you, Dr. Monica. So welcome. It's so wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much for a beautiful introduction. And thank you all for showing up today. I think the biggest thing ever is us showing up for ourselves. I keep trying to tell people we have to add ourselves into the equation of our lives. We have a tendency to somehow learn as we're growing up to forget ourselves and put everything else more important than us. I usually meditate before I start my day, and I try to ask if there's a word that needs to be not forced, and that needs to be reinforced for us to all kind of ponder within ourselves of where we are at. And so the two words that came up this morning for me for this group was self-abandonment. Where in your life have you abandoned yourself? As well as authenticity. How have you sacrificed your authentic living, who you truly are, for something beyond you or outside of you?
Mm.
And, I was very fortunate recently to have a wonderful experience of talking in the UK at a mental health conference and met some amazing clinicians and other practitioners, as well as had a week with Gabor Mate and his wife and a team of other somatic healers. And, even there was that reinforcement of Gabor talks about, Dr. Mate talks about a concept of how we sacrifice our authentic living, our authenticity for relationships and attachments in life. And those attachments can be relationships, mommy, daddy. It can also be, attachments to your job, your career, your boss, your money, your status. And so many times we sacrifice our truth, our authentic living for something outside of us that is usually tied to an attachment or a relationship. And so it's nice for us to sometimes pause and reflect and look back and say, where do I sacrifice my voice? Where do I sacrifice my truth? Where do I sacrifice my health, my well-being, my self-care for something outside of me that is tied to an attachment, a fear, an anxiety, a relationship? And many of us don't take time to do that because we get stuck on that hamster on the wheel. We go, go, go. And it's well documented that women carry an unequal burden as wives and mothers. And we were talking about this before we started, second generation. When you are from parents that are immigrants, you also take on their mindset of scarcity, fears, doing everything by yourself. Like my mom used to cook these lavish meals where everything was cooked by hand. And, there was this sense of pride, but a sense of perfectionism too, of like wanting to be perfect as in every role that we play, which, is easy when you have no kids. To some
Mm-hmm.
degree, you can be perfect at work, you can be perfect for self-care, maybe even perfect as a partner. But as you start increasing roles, daughter-in-law, mother, grandmother, like as you have more roles, even in your workplace, with demands of increasing promotions and climbing up the ladder, you just deplete yourself and your resources, and you get to a place of not knowing what self-care is truly. And we start
Mm.
doing the superficial things, the spa day or, an afternoon tea or meeting friends, but they're superficial. It's not a deeper healing. It's not a deeper
Wow.
wellness. And that deeper wellness is what rejuvenates, heals us, but also makes us question, you know, what is my authentic life really craving?
Yeah.
Who do I really want to be?
I love Dr. Monica, like the way that you have like you dove into the topic. I want us to track back, like go back to where it started, the root of it.
Mhm.
And I think what you said was so apt that we are doing a lot of things that are surface level and they're helping, but the deep work is where true fulfillment and true authenticity comes in. So let's go back to the origin and the roots in terms
Mhm.
of where did this begin in terms of this idea of how we take care of ourselves? And
Mhm.
then why is it like the old rules? And then why is it not working in today's world? I think you touched upon it a little bit, but give us in like a short, concise way, like where
So,
did it begin?
as a clinician, there's always that battlefield of nature and nurture. And yes, some things are genetic and passed on in our gene pool, mood, anxiety, addictions. There are sometimes little favors of, we are more prone to certain illnesses and things. But the truth is, your blueprint starts at home. And, 0 to 10, your world is not that world out there. Your world is a household. The way mom and dad love each other is love. The way mom and dad fight is conflict resolution. Mom's a clean freak, cleaning's a value. Dad works a lot, work's a value. Dad maybe drinks at the end of the day. And so maybe we're not coping, we're suppressing and numbing. And so we sometimes are learning through role modeled behaviors and, even anger, conflict. I remember listening to an example recently in a forum where somebody was talking about, how they ended up spanking their children because their parents used to deal with anger that way. And they were like, my parents were good people. We try to defend wrong behavior sometimes. And we defend it not from a place of it's a self-preservation as a protection. We sometimes defend maladaptive behaviors as in they were doing the best they could. And I'm not saying they're not. However, repeating the cycle of sometimes bad behaviors, of overextending, of poor self-care, of sometimes spanking, of disciplining with anger, or, having a short fuse, all of us have good traits, but we want to ask ourselves, am I showing up in the world in my highest and best or better? Am I showing up in the world the way I'd like to? Many of us who have maladaptive behaviors don't show up in their lives the way they would hope to. And one reason why is because of that chronic stress we carry. When you have stress, when you're in pain, you spill over onto others. You're spilling over onto others with physiological symptoms. You're spilling over onto others with addictions. You're spilling over onto others with irritability, frustration, short fuse, not being present, numbing yourself, maybe not communicating. You're not showing up as your highest and best or better self. And that's the shame we carry. We carry shame tied to not being our highest and best or better or living authentically. And then we feel trapped, not knowing how to solve a problem that has organically grown into our lives from childhood. So it's not about blaming mom and dad, but it is recognizing that some parents do go to therapy. Some parents do their own healing. Some parents do work on their symptoms, maybe from suffering. So as a therapist, I can tell you, you know, I'm privileged to help and hold people in compassion and love to work on themselves. However, many people don't show up in my office until they're in an extreme version of suffering. Suffering is a catalyst for change. We all try to avoid suffering. However, suffering is what shifts us, shifts our mindset, allows us to go beyond ourselves for help, get resources involved, and sometimes look at our lives with a magnifying glass to say, how did I get here? What are the unhealthy, maladaptive behaviors and thoughts that I am reinforcing that has led me to a place that I am somehow mentally, physically, or spiritually suffering? And I say spiritually because to me, my definition of spirituality is you connecting to your spirit, you enjoying your own company. Many of us don't enjoy our own company. You're here to fall madly in love with yourselves. And if you're not in that space, then something's off course. And chronic stress makes us disconnect from being able to fall madly in love with yourself.
Oh my
So
goodness.
0 to 10, going back to your answer, 0 to 10, we have a blueprint at home. And it's not about blaming, shaming, guilting our parents, but it is about recognizing, okay, they did the best they could with what they had. At some age, it's about me looking and reflecting on what can I take charge with now to change the narrative, change the belief system, change the patterns that I have just automatically acquired and become a better version of us. We all have the ability with free will to change. We just don't pause, reflect, and make the time for it. And the
Hmm.
beautiful thing of Ayurvedic practices that I love is, Eastern practices reinforce rituals. Rituals are about a pause and bringing in practices that bring in good amongst the chaos we live. And
Hmm.
so, rituals of prayer, rituals of mantras, rituals of eating a certain way, mindful eating, mindful walking, mindful talking, listening, being in silence, learning to take care of your body, stretching, bringing in practices of health consciously is what sometimes rewires ourselves to get out of that hamster on the wheel, go, go, go. And instead of being a human doer, being a human being. We lose that over time. As a kid, we're trying to seek approval, we're trying to fit in, we're trying to listen to our parents who are saying, like, it's a busy, competitive world out there. You need to do more, you need to be more. And we're trying to line our kids up and we're trying to line ourselves up for success. But I think we have to challenge what the definition of success is. My
Hmm.
acupuncturist said once, Monica, you know what a healthy day is? And I said, why? He goes, 8 hours work, 8 hours play, 8 hours sleep. 1/3 of your day is in sleep. 2/3 should be split between work and play. Who lives that way? But balance is a chosen choice. We have to start being not well adjusted to a sick society, but more well adjusted to bringing in balance with conscious effort. And chronic stress is when you're on that hamster wheel so long that now you're starting to get burnout symptoms because your body is trying to cry for the attention to make you pause, reflect, and rewire unhealthy habits that you have reinforced. My TED talk was think about it. Thoughts are powerful things, good or bad. Anything ever created in life, including your lifestyle, started with a thought. And so thoughts are powerful things. What you focus on expands. Your inner world creates your outer world. Are you in your inner world reinforcing self-abandonment, self-sacrifice? Are you reinforcing maladaptive behaviors of other people are more important than me? I'm unworthy of love. I'm not capable. I'm not strong enough. I'm not enough. And many of you, if you have children, we can learn how to unconditionally love our children. We might be disappointed if they do things that we're not happy with, but you unconditionally love your children, but you don't know how to unconditionally love yourself. So how are you able to model to your children healthy habits when you haven't been able to master that? And so that ripple
Love it.
effect, when you're in pain, you spill over onto others, but when you're in health and you're working on yourself, there's a ripple effect.
Oh my goodness. What you're saying is so powerful, and I can speak on my behalf, and part of it is because I've been listening to you for a long time, and it has trickled in, and to apply and change these behaviors. The awareness that you talked about, I think the fact that being what you can only change what you can see. So I think what I would like to kind of focus on, because what I feel is, even in my own life, to change certain patterns and become aware, because a lot of them are blind spots for a lot of us as we are going through our own different paths. And being aware, becoming more aware of them is what I want to kind of ask you about. Is how do you see, like, before we go into change, how do you become aware? I think that's what I'm trying.
So, yeah, the first step to treatment for yourselves to be better is awareness. And, awareness is complicated because we don't have symptoms in one category at a time. They're kind of all amalgamated in our body. And chronic stress, is physiological and psychological response to a prolonged stressor or stressors. Chronic stress can lead to burnout, as we know today. And many people are starting to realize that burnout is showing up in the world as not just exhaustion or physiological symptoms, but also that negative mindset, pessimism, worst case scenarios, catastrophizing. You're not being as efficient with your work. You're being hard on yourself. So it starts depleting your self-esteem. So chronic stress is not just causing us diabetes and cancers and ulcers and sometimes just fatigue and exhaustion. It's causing us also a mindset to start going into lack versus looking at what we have. And so many times we're not realizing, when you have chronic stress in your life or burnout symptoms even, which is just chronically being in a state of stressness, that stress wreaks havoc in your life through choices, behaviors, feelings. And then what we're noticing is we're starting to have other issues like sleep problems. We're starting to have rumination where we're constantly thinking about worst case scenarios and feeling the need to control everything. We're having more muscle tension, lower sex drive, having more abdominal distress, heart disease. We're starting to have blood pressure issues. We're starting to have more choices of food and exercise that are quick fixes versus really making time to make a sustained lifestyle that is healthy. So, first step is awareness of, okay, how maladaptive has my lifestyle become? And realizing that your mood will match your food, your mood will also match your lifestyle and match your also maladaptive, thoughts and patterns. Your thoughts lead to your moods and your physical symptoms as well as your behaviors. And so it always starts with a thought, the thought that gives you permission to sacrifice, the thought that gives you permission to say, you know what, it's okay, I'll sacrifice my sleep and do this instead, or this person needs me and they're more important than I am. The thought that says I can't say no, guilt, shame, lack of boundaries. What are boundaries? Like in your home, a boundary is a fence to keep things away so that you have your own personal autonomy and space. That's what a boundary is around your home. We need that for our lives too. We need that with our relationships too, because without a boundary, it just gets messy. You're just going to have people showing up without respecting autonomy of your space, your energy, your resources. Stress is when your activity level surpasses your energy level. Activity is mental and physical, and energy levels are the same, but we oftentimes don't pay attention to it. So again, stress is when your activity, mental and physical, surpasses your activity level. Your output is more than your input. Very simple equation. And so when it comes to solutions, you have two options. Bring down your output, which many of us are not willing to do because we commit to so much and we want to be superheroes to every area of our life that we sacrifice, doing more because it makes us feel of value and worth. So then the next option is, okay, well, let's bring up energy sources. Where are your energy sources at? There's four sources of energy just on a basic level, and we all take them for granted. The food we eat, many times we're doing this with our food. Stimulant, coffee, right? Depressant, heavy food, carbs, fried foods, cigarettes, weed, right? Coffee again, sugar, donuts, things that are like spiking our insulin levels. We're doing this all day. Well, the best is when somebody drinks alcohol and they do Red Bull, stimulant, and vodka. So you're like a stimulant and a depressant at the same time. Alcohol's a depressant. We don't even realize what we're doing all day long, but we're doing this with our mind and our body versus trying to bring it at a nice equilibrium, nice steady state of calmness, sugar levels, energy levels. The second one is sleep. We sacrifice the one thing that replenishes this beautiful body to wake up in the morning feeling renewed and refreshed to do all the stuff we put it through. And so it's interesting how I always tell people, like, look at the wear and tear your body goes through, even just standing and walking and carrying yourself through the day. Are you doing the best you can to restore yourself at night? And if you're having disturbed sleep, what's going on? Are you ruminating? Do you find you can't shut off your brain? Do you have physiological symptoms going on? Are you worried about things? When you don't have a calm state of mind, oftentimes it's carried on till you make time for it to bubble up at nighttime. And one reason why your mind starts going active is like you've been busy and distracted all day, and now you've given yourself a pause and your mind's finally bubbling up everything. That's why sometimes people have dreams that are disturbing, is what you don't address in the day is going to pop up somewhere, right? And so sleep, are you getting enough? Are you making it a priority? Are you checking out why you can't sleep? And, whether it's menopause or it's a life transition with grief, or it's just overextended and you're wired, or you're being on your devices at night and you're stimulated, so it's hard to put yourself to bed because your body doesn't know how to wind down. We got to pay attention to the habits we're doing. Are we reinforcing things that keep us in a place of state of health? Third one is exercise and breathing. We sit majority of our life. Many of us are not getting active. Exercise and breathing, many of us are not breathing. I love babies because when you watch babies, they're breathing from their belly. And then somehow with the rat race and the busyness and the to-do list that never ends, we start doing short and shallow breaths. And that short and shallow makes your muscles tighter, your abdominal distress, makes your mind even foggy. Sometimes just breathing properly alleviates some of the symptoms that we're attributing to like anxiety, depression, and even menopause right now. Sometimes just living a little bit healthier can alleviate and ease some of that. And exercise and breathing, when you exercise, you're breathing more. That's actually one reason why we feel great after an exercise is your muscles get oxygen. You start feeling, a little more loosey-goosey instead of that tightness that comes with short and shallow breaths. And the fourth one is a calm state of mind. And that comes back to my boundaries. A calm state of mind is dealing with things that we're not happy with. Many of us don't make time to deal with marital problems, with personal struggles, with low self-esteem, with anxiety. What is anxiety? Fear and self-doubt. Many of us on an anxiety front have self-doubt. Can I handle the next problem that's going to show up? We struggle with constantly reinforcing doubt in our lives. I'm not enough. I don't know if I can handle that. I'm not capable. And so calm state of mind is sometimes getting help, having that mirror of somebody to talk it out with, to reconceptualize the way you live, but it's also to challenge where you came from. You know, um, it's important for us to sometimes look at 0 to 10. You were brought up in a certain environment and you've had that as a blueprint, but you can reconceptualize, okay, this worked for me in my childhood. It's not working for me as an adult. This morning, I read an email from a patient, and most of them send me wonderful logs. And this couple's really working on themselves. I see, one adult, and I've brought in their relationship to work on some of their dynamics as they're going through a crisis. But the partner I was very proud of is reflecting, is reading, is trying to understand how have we got off course. And I always say to people, do everything in your power to save it before you choose to walk away from each other. Recognize that things might have gone off course, but at the core, both of you have good ingredients. That's what made you attracted to each other once. Can we come back to a place of love and compassion, or are we really gone? And we just want new partners and new lives now. And the nice thing of this one individual who sent me a log this morning is they were paying attention and doing the homework. And what the homework really is being authentic to yourself. We want to be showing up in the world as better. It starts with you. And I always tell single people too, make your life ice cream, really sweet on its own. Exercise, eat well, sleep well, take care of yourself, hobbies, interests. Try to fall in love with your own life, madly in love with it. And a good partner is the cherry on top. With or without the cherry, your life should be sweet. A partner should be making your life sweeter, not filling a gap for you. Many of us are getting into relationships with somebody filling that void or filling a gap. Then over time, that feels like a burden to a partner, even if they agreed to it in the beginning out of people pleasing. Over time, that feels like a burden, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a friend, a colleague, or a partner. You got to start working on yourself to be whole in order for people to respect you enough to keep you in their lives. And nobody owes us anything. And so many of us have to start realizing a part of self-care is working on yourself, mind, body, soul. And soul meaning, really enjoying your own spirit, your own company. And the mind and the body, when you're in a good state, your mind and your body follows that path too. You see it in a glow, you see it in an energy, you see it in their demeanors and their mannerisms, and you see it in them enjoying the sweetness of life. You're not rushing through things, you're actually savoring and you're grateful for little moments.
Mm. Oh my goodness. What you talked about, Dr. Monica, there was something which really resonated, and that was looking at the whole person. Like when we're talking about, I'm just going to like pick up a few points that you touched upon. Is like how we grow up. We don't have control over that. Each one of us picks up these rules of how to take care of yourself as we're growing up, and each one has their own ways that are maybe working for us and some that don't work now that we're older and we have different responsibilities. But what you talked about in terms of looking ourselves in terms of like a whole life and looking at where are we at, and then looking at what's not working, how do we want to change that? And one of the powerful things that you emphasize and we love at Purna is to practice the holistic self-care things, the fundamentals. And the pillars that you mentioned are exactly the same pillars of Purna when we talk about nutrition and work, exercise and breathing and mindfulness and sleep. So let's talk about bringing these practicing and being consistent, because we know even like for myself, and I tell my parents, "Oh, you have to eat healthier." But when I started doing it myself, it's challenging to bring these practices consistently because we lead busy lives. We're on the go. One of the things that like, what are some of the things that have helped, like talking to an expert, and like what are some of the things which would help the women in general
Mhm.
go from where we've been to where we want to go?
Yeah. So, when a patient comes to me or a client comes to me in the beginning, I usually do this wonderful table with three legs. Any problem in life you can put on this table, it's going to manifest in your life in three distinct ways. This is also about awareness. Problems of anxiety, depression, caregiver needs, addictions, sexual dysfunctioning, low self-esteem, not feeling good enough, body image issues, cancer, diabetes, any problem that you want to identify, children problems, anything that you're struggling with is going to show up in three distinct ways in your life. The first way is through physical or physiological symptoms, headaches, muscle aches, abdominal distress, constipation, diarrhea, heart palpitations, panic attacks, crying, sensitivity, irritability, angry outbursts, exhaustion, fatigue, right? So anything in your body. The second way it shows up is cognitive. We talked a little bit about negative thoughts. So these 0 to 10, you have cognitive beliefs that come from mommy and daddy, and sometimes just the way you think about suffering and life. Some of us think of, I had somebody yesterday saying, my mom used to say, I don't like when you cry. It makes me feel bad. It shows a sign of weakness. So she really doesn't cry. And she's like, it makes me feel like I'm weak. And these concepts we get of like pushing through, or, life is suffering, or it's life is a hustle, or things are hard. Like these are concepts we're holding on to that come from sometimes our parents' suffering or our own. And these are thoughts about you, your world, your capabilities, men, women, roles we play, who we think we need to be to feel worthy of love. You're worthy of love just the way you are, but we put rule books on a thought level. And then the third way things show up in your life is behaviorally, lifestyle habits, eating too much, eating too little, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, alcohol and drugs. None of these guys, we do it here. Avoidance, denial, procrastination, staying in abusive relationships, not saying no, giving up on speaking out and asking for help, giving up on, getting the help you want because you didn't find the right doctor the first time. Sometimes even not setting boundaries with your parents, not setting boundaries with friends, staying in abusive friendships, not finding new avenues for help, not getting the help you need. And the behaviors go on and on and on. So the three of these keep your problems standing in life. I always tell people, if I had a magic wand and I can take away your problems, where do you want life to go? Right? In work, social intimacy, self-care, spirituality. My goal as a therapist is to take you from where you are to where you want to go. This gap are those symptoms. Everything is about a symptom. Your body is constantly talking to yourself through physical symptoms, negative thoughts, or negative behaviors. And when you start realizing, okay, you know what? If I can see these symptoms, maybe I can pick one thing to work on this week. I'll work on something physical. I'll work on negative thoughts and bring in an affirmation. Sometimes mantras are beautiful. I love giving affirmations or mantras because it's about, there's two type of mantras out there. There's a seed mantra and a contemplative one. A seed mantra is just one word that you're dropping in silence and it creates that vibration. So like om, love, Harim, you can pick Sanskrit words that have the vibration of something and you're just saying it over and over, love, 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 as a way to just bring that vibration. A contemplative mantra is a sentence. I am capable. I am capable. I am capable. I am capable. Or a longer sentence like Om Bhur-bhava Swaha Tasavitravarinyam, like proper statements. Or you can do I'm safe, healthy, and protected. During the pandemic, I gave that one to a lot of people. When you feel that I'm not feeling safe, healthy, and protected, or you're going through medical treatments right now for something, I'm safe, healthy, and protected. Increasing that volume. Life is about replacing one thought with the other. Replace the negative thoughts with positive ones, but we have to consciously do it. In my phone in the mornings, I have first thing in the morning, three reinforcements of the ones I do. And my first one is nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to fix. Tells you a little bit about my issues, right? But when it comes down to it, that's the first thing I have in the morning. Nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to fix. And that makes me just, here and now is all that matters. And then the other one is, may my will align with thy will, right? May I make choices that are in my highest and best or better. And the third one is, I do this one when I wake up in the morning. Little rituals, again, keep us in alignment to our own highest and best version of ourselves. So when I wake up in the morning, I take 6 deep breaths from my belly and I go, I'm divine, I'm love, I'm grateful, right? It's 3 simple statements. The other one I used to do, I'm love, I'm divine, I'm enough, I'm thankful. Right? There
Mm.
is so much to be thankful for. But notice even when I'm saying that, I'm just slowing my morning down and sort of jumping out of bed and running around. Like you just set the pace of already being in love with your life to wake up and start doing things. And then, um, sometimes you can be simple statements. The fourth one on my list, I don't know where I got this one from, was I believe something wonderful is going to happen to me today. And at the end of the day, I believe something wonderful is going to happen to me tomorrow. And so, how beautiful is that just to plant things? And it's in my calendar every day forever. Like, it's just little things, and I change them by my mood. But it's about bringing in little rituals. When I come home, I light 3 tea lights, mind, body, and soul, awareness of me just lighting 3 tea lights that burn for 8 hours, right? And it's a nice little way to just slow down. I'm home, take off work clothes, get into comfortable things, but slow down, decompress your day before you go to sleep. I have beautiful bedtime routines of like spraying lavender. I have a heating pad on my bed. I do little things like meditate with muscle balm, like eucalyptus or things like this, like rosemary mint. You can put it in your hair, or you can put it on your head and just breathe with it. And the tingling just makes you feel more grounded in your body. And if you have all that muscle tension from sitting all day, you kind of put a little bit of muscle tension here or muscle care or whatever you want to call it, Tiger Balm, and it just gives you another way to just relax in your body. Paying attention, foot baths as you're watching TV, little rituals that we can do before I eat or drink anything in my head. I say thank you. That food sacrificing itself for my nutrition, right? It's my way of just being grateful, but it's also me slowing down so I don't wolf it down. These are little practices, and we're raised to put the needs of others ahead of our own. So this one's the big one. As women, especially, I might write a book. I'm not sure about this one, so I'll share the title. For men by men. Some of the rules out there are for men by men. We don't have a lot of rules where we put women first. We are always constantly negotiating our value, our that good girl concept you said. That was one I had to challenge a while ago. That good girl is you sacrificing your authenticity to appease somebody out there that calls you a good girl, and you feel like you're disappointing them in a bad girl if you don't do what people want for you. So what does that teach you? External validates by an internal value. You're valuable with or without somebody validating you. You're valuable with or without somebody being happy with you. You're valuable with or without people in your life. We are social beings, but you got to take charge of the energy in your space. Are you bringing people on board that cheer you on, that celebrate you, that love you as you are, or they're trying to change you? As you evolve and grow and ask for help, it shouldn't be punished. And many of us feel punished for, being vulnerable to ask for help, or punished for setting boundaries, or punished for not putting other people's needs ahead of our own. Being a good girl does not mean self-sacrifice. And that's a concept in your head you have to get straight. So when I work through guilt with people, Many people carry guilt. What is guilt? It's just a signal. True self versus expected self, right? That there's a conflict between what you really want and what people want from you. The Gita teaches this. The Bhagavad Gita teaches you in that story of Arjuna and Krishna that there is a battlefield amongst all of us between what we want and our truth and what people want from us. And even in that book, it teaches you, you know, live your truth and out comes a greater good. But every time you put others ahead of you, you're going to have turmoil in your body because you're self-sacrificing and you're going against your divine. Your divine's telling you, this is what I need. And you're like, it's okay. Tomorrow, next month, after retirement, we negotiate with our divine. And then we wonder why we're suffering because your body's saying, no, now. Live now. Each and every one of us are born alone. We take our first breath in alone and our last breath out alone. It is a journey about you understanding I have to add myself into the equation of my life and stop thinking I have forever. Each and every one of us are born with the uncertainty of not knowing how and when we're going to die. So why do we take life for granted, thinking we have forever? You might not. Live each day as if it's your last. That means listen to your divine and stop negotiating. I'll wear that nice outfit tomorrow, or I'll eat something, when I have my next paycheck, or, I'm going to take that vacation 4 years from now. You might not have 4 years. That's a good story I can give you. I have a patient that I helped her she's in her upper 80s, and she was like, Monica, I'm kind of bored. Let's find me a class or something. So I found her a bunch of options. She picked one. And then she did class 1. It was good. She did class 2. It was good. And then she came back the third week and saw me. And she's like, guess what? I'm thinking about death a lot. I'm like, you've never thought about death. You're 87. What are you talking about? And she goes, yeah. So you remember that course you gave me a bunch of options? I picked one. Well, the course instructor, she's wonderful. And she's probably in your age bracket, mid 50s. And she looked at me and she goes, so I ended up taking the class week 1, week 2, and then I went to week 3 and she died. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she goes, well, I was thinking about it. I'm like, she put together a 4-month class thinking she has 4 months to live to do it. And I signed up that 4-month class expecting her to live for it, but also expecting to be alive to do it. She goes, she just taught me something. I'm signing up for things, but I don't have a guarantee I'm going to be alive to do them all. And so postponing happiness, what is that really doing for you? Why do we postpone happiness? If something makes you happy, find a way to do it now. If something brings you peace, I was talking to an aunt last night for dinner, and I said to her, what do you really want? She has a lot of material things, but what do you really want? She said, peace. So then ask yourself authentically, what's going to bring me peace? And some of that peace comes from boundaries and alleviating yourself of the guilt. What is guilt? Just a little signal that says what you want and what people want is conflicting. Ding, 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 guilt. Somebody wants something that you don't want. It's misaligned. In our journey as kids, we didn't know better. We gave in to everybody's requests. But as an adult, you know better. That if you don't feed your own soul and you don't take care of yourself, are you any good to these people you're sacrificing for? When you're in pain, you're spilling over onto others. Even if you cave into somebody's request and it's against your will, the vibration is what? Resentment, anger, frustration, pettiness, maybe passive aggressive. So are you doing them any favors doing something with those vibrations next to it? But doing something in your truth, it disappoints this person, but this person also learns boundaries that maybe you're grown up now and they can't control you as much, or they have to learn how to fill their own cup. We enable people sometimes by falling into guilt traps.
And also when we are actually living and doing the things for ourselves, it's also a role modeling for others, and especially our children, and they learn from it as well.
That's the other thing. You want healthy children and you want a healthy world. Well, it starts with you, right? And so that healthy world is going to come from you taking care of your energy, your resources, and challenging yourself. Where do I sacrifice authenticity? Where do I sacrifice me for others? And what are others?
Mm.
Others could be money, a job, a boss, a friend, a coworker. Others could be strangers that you feel the need to say yes to.
Mm. My God. I have so many questions for you, and I think you answered all of them. There is something that I feel
Mhm.
because I have that question, I feel others might have it too. Even when you know what are the right things for you, what are the thoughts you should be thinking, the way that it can benefit you, your health and your well-being, sometimes you're in a dark place. And I don't know if like you can probably speak to it from a psychology point of view that our thoughts tend to lean towards more negative thoughts generally. Like if we wake up, there's like a lot of cortisol and the negative thoughts kick in. So when you're in a like much darker place, when it's harder to make that decision, but you know that that pattern is starting with leaning towards negative patterns, and it's hard to make those good decisions for yourselves. What are some of the things that people can do who are in that pattern and they're feeling stuck? They're feeling like that circumstance, they're a victim of that circumstance. So, what would you say, like maybe before we complete our interview, like three things that someone can do?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about resilience before I get into the three things. So, resilience isn't something we do or don't have. Resilience is something we build and reinforce every day for ourselves. We want to be more resilient and happier and healthier and calmer, then we have to exercise the muscle of activities that align with that. Sometimes, I tell people for homework to look at role models of people they admire in their lives and make a list of what their behaviors are. And the best way to become it is to see what somebody else possesses and then align with it. Bring in those tools. My, I've never felt jealous or envious of others. I've always seen others in comparison to me as a way to learn. So when I judge somebody as lesser than me, and it is our judgment, it's not true, but when I judge somebody lesser than me, it shows me how far I grew. And when I judge somebody as better than me, it means I can acquire the skills and become it. So that's really what comparison is about. Everything should be about you in relation to them. And so when people trigger you, look at the mirror. What's triggering me? Is it a similar trait or is it a trait that I don't know how to handle and I need to bring in better skills to handle it? Everything outside of you is mirroring back health, dysfunction, how far you grew, how far you can grow. So when you start having this mindset of individual journey amongst the collective in the world, then your inner world's creating your outer world. And that's where the power and the resilience comes in. We're not powerless to our world. We feel powerless. And I think I posted this morning or yesterday a quote by Gabor Mate that I really liked. And his quote was a very simple one, and I don't want to misquote it, so I'm going to read it. Trauma is not what happens to you, but what happens inside of you. Now, what you're talking about is how to fix the inside of us. Permissions to self-care, permissions to rest, permissions to work through the guilt and shame we carry of needing to be productive all the time and not rest or say no. And so learning to have compassion for ourselves. You know what compassion means in Latin? It means co-suffering. And so you need to co-suffer with yourself. It's not about blaming again your childhood, but it is about like little Monica goes in and she has a moment of compassion for some of the tough times she had in her childhood. I just hold myself and co-suffer. Go, oh, you know what? Parents might have done the best they could with what they had, but I co-suffer with myself to feel things and say that was a hard period. Yeah, that was not fun to go through. It's just holding yourself in compassion, but then coming up with here and now, how can I add love to my life and make it better? How can I add joy to my life and make it better? How can I add health to my life and make it better? And so that's where I'm saying resilience is learning a skill to be stronger, better, healthier, wiser, calmer. And so making quality a priority in your life. Stop watering down your self-care. Stop watering down your priorities. Stop watering down you in the equation of your life. Add it back in with quality food, quality rest, quality time. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're really far behind in the food, well, just start off with a baby step. You do one healthy habit a week, you'll get there. Stop also expecting everything to change yesterday when dysfunction took years of reinforcement. Where, like, you exercise this muscle, it becomes big. It's going to take time for this one to build. You just got to keep at it, knowing that you are worth it. Pay attention to your thoughts. Challenge the negative self-talk. Stop with making excuses for people's bad behaviors and start learning to reinforce I'm safe, healthy, and protected. I'm loved. I'm capable. I'm worthy. I'm deserving. I'm enough. I love myself
Mhm.
fully and completely. Work through the inadequacies that you keep reinforcing about yourself. When you look in the mirror, are you self-criticizing? Or are you having a moment of like, damn, you're beautiful? Are you feeling beautiful in regardless of your body shapes, regardless of your aging and your wrinkles? Like, are you celebrating who you are as you are? Or are you constantly looking at lack in yourself? Start saying no to requests. You don't need to help others. You need to help yourself and realize that you matter in the equation of your life. Being nice to others, do unto others as you want done to you. Learn to be kind. We're snippy and stuff when people make requests because we don't know how to set boundaries. You don't have to be mean. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I love you. I just don't have the time for that. I love you is a nice way to soften ourselves. I love you, but I'm going to have to say no to that request. I love you, but I'm busy. And guess what? When I say I'm busy, and none of you personalize this, but anytime I say I'm busy, sometimes I'm just busy with myself watching Netflix. It's not always about being busy doing something outside of me, sometimes just busy doing something for me on the inside. And so recognizing again, staying connected to yourself is a practice. You bring in little rituals, you bring in little practices. I rub peppermint oil on my temples when I meditate at night for my nightly meditation. In the morning, I actually have a heating pad that I put on my chest when I do my morning meditation. I bring in healthy snacks and treats as a way to just like treat myself. Again, if today was the last day I lived, because you don't know you're going to die, I want to eat the treat I want to eat because I want to celebrate today as it is. I want to show up in my best version of me, mind, body, and soul. Even on days that you're not feeling great, how can you show up for yourself? Sometimes it's just the accessories you wear, right? Exercise staying connected to your best version of you. Engage in activities and experiences. Every night I do a journal in a little book and I write down what brought me joy today. Every day there's a page where I sit there and reflect on what brought me joy today. And number one is a great memory exercise. You have to think from morning to night, the little things that brought you joy. Sometimes it's the security guard who told me I look pretty today. Sometimes it's, the good weather that I got to walk in to get here without FIFA traffic. Sometimes it's the fact that, I committed to something that was on my to-do list that I never got done. I have a contractor right now working on something that I've been procrastinating on doing for a year and a half. I also correct and continue. I'm kind enough to correct and continue than beat myself up. It took a year and a half to get this project done. I got in getting it done. That's what matters. And learning to be kind to yourself. Every day when I do what brought me joy, sometimes joy is the meal I made that turned out instead of me throwing it out. Or, the joy is a friend who talked to me and sent me a meme. Learn to just start savoring little things. And if you don't have enough joy, then bring it in.
Mhm.
Bring in the dance. That's the other thing, somatically. Do something
Mhm.
fun for your body. Massages. I rub magnesium cream at the base of my feet before I go to bed. It's a nice way, like you can take magnesium. You can also Buy the cream and put it on the base of your feet. It's such a nice way to go to bed. You calm down with magnesium, and it also brings all these beautiful benefits, but you don't have to always take everything. You can rub, you know, that, like I said, the peppermint, or you can rub the magnesium on your feet. There's little things you can do to stay connected to joyful activities, mind, body, and soul. My house, I light
Mm.
incense for the smell. You know, I, talk to my plants when I water them, something I learned from my mom. A lot of the Ayurvedic practices teach us about pausing, bringing some of that in, reading one page, just one, of something that lifts you, listening to a song. I have playlists that rock. And so in the morning, I listen to quiet, fun play ones, and I've shared them with some of you on Elf. And then other ones are a little bit more, spiritual, to just get that vibration of like being one and divinely connected to your world. Mind body connection is really important. When you are not in a place of health, you are disconnected from your mind, your body, and from you showing up in the world as the best way you want to be. So, like the book, A Deeper Wellness, and my podcast is all about connecting, removing toxic relationships, giving yourself permission to work through those negative belief systems that say, I have to, I can't. You can. You're choosing your life. Your life is exactly as you make it. You maybe can't choose the traumas that come to you. You can choose how you walk through them. You can choose how you cope. You can choose to ask for help, to bring in the resources to make you a better version. I love when somebody yesterday was like, do you have your own therapist? I'm like, damn well I do. I have coaches, I have meditation teachers, I have mentors, I have people in a circle that we meditate together once a month. I'm making time, and I find the more time I make for me, the more time is available to me.
That is how I think we define the new rules of self-care. And what I love about what you shared is you're not just talking about it, you're actually living it. And I think that's what makes you truly authentic, is everything that you share with others is what you bring into your life. And thank you for giving such a deep insight into all the practices that you live day in, day out, right from the morning into the night. So, one thing that I want to end with is where can people find you? And if there's a website that they can reach you, because you do an array of things. So, just a simple website, and then we'll conclude just to make sure that we have enough time.
Yeah. So, Dr. Monica Vermani is my website, and you can find everything I have there. I started doing retreats this year, not because I need more to do, but to be fair and honest. The one thing I've learned in the last retreat I did in January, I had patients of mine who regularly see me. And I asked them after, I was like, so did you find this beneficial? And they said, you know what? The things you were teaching me weekly or bi-weekly, I found having 7 days, where 5 days I got to just listen to your lessons in the day and then have downtime and absorb it, but then also have daily practices. The one reason why retreats are fun, that are bringing in educational components, is you go on vacation, but you bring in rituals, hopefully, that when you come home, you can integrate into your life. One reason why we go on vacation, then come back and we get stuck in the hamster on the wheel again, we don't know how to integrate knowledge that we learn from seminars, these type of talks, into our life. And so I'm even developing a developmental circle for the people who come out of my retreat, but it's going to be open to the public, where twice a month you get to come in and you learn a healthy habit, but then we talk about what's holding you back. What are the obstacles that are preventing you from getting that gap bridged, where you are to where you want to be? It's never far. It's about alleviating the symptoms. Some of the symptoms we can do ourselves. Some of the symptoms need buddy systems, communities. Some of the symptoms need a doctor, a clinician, a therapist. So it's about sometimes brainstorming with someone, or getting the help, or learning to go outside of ourselves. I love my coaching sessions. I love my meditation sessions. It makes me pause, and I learn from people who are got that one aspect of their life right, to show it to me. None of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. But I know one thing, I show up in the morning every day. And when you said our mind jumps to negative thoughts, that's the training. I can't say my mind jumps to negative thoughts when I wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a
Mm-hmm.
practice, it's a muscle. The more you exercise it, I can promise you that pattern shifts. It's about you being consciously aware of what takes you there. And so, again, I have retreats now. I have a webinar coming out for fall to bring people back to reset themselves when the winter blues come in before, Christmas hits. And then I have another retreat in October and then next January, February, and April. So feel free if you want to do those. Those are good resets. They're good ways of just like getting an individual session with me, but also having, you know, 7 days of learning something with practices that you're doing every day, that when you come home, you have those supplies to do them at home. And, we don't realize the power of community. When you're in collective communities like this, we kind of lift each other up. So even if I fall, my communities lift me back up. And remember, the most important relationship we'll ever have in our life is with ourselves, not with others. And so quality self-care is not a luxury, it's a need.
Mm, absolutely, Dr. Monica Vermani. This is exceptional. I'm so honored and grateful to have known you and to have you today with all this wealth that you shared with us. I hope that it like has nourished our community here and then it reaches a lot of people.
One more point. I do have a
Yes.
podcast out there, and my podcast guests are fascinating. The first one was the need for stillness, learning to meditate. The second or third one was with, a mentor of mine that I love that spoke about the ego. The voice that talks to you in your head and the voice that listens are both versions of ego. Learning to live in the here and now, in the present. When you're in the present, you alleviate a lot of symptoms. But it is important to sometimes challenge the ego that tells you one thing, and even the one that listens is another version of the ego. It's actually fascinating how much we feed the characters of need to be productive, need to do this, be a good daughter, be a good girl. Like, we got to stop feeding the stories that keep us maladaptive and learn to bring in new stories of I am worthy and deserving. I'm worthy of love just the way I am, with or without making mistakes, with or without being perfect. So
Oh.
some of my podcast guests are fascinating. One was the Wolf of Wall Street's ex-wife, who now is a psychologist who talks about toxic relationships, cutting out friends or partners that bring in toxicity. It is important for us to start recognizing what lifts us and what depletes us and start listening to your body. We're really intuitive. We don't
Mhm.
listen to ourselves when we're stuck in unhealthy habits.
Yes, yes. And like not trying to run away from the negative, but really knowing that we have the choice and we can choose what is in our best interest. Thank you, Dr. Monica. This has been wonderful, and I can't thank you enough. This has been so great, and we will stay tuned for the podcast and your book and your upcoming retreats. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.